Soon AMD will have the best gaming processors. And before we get into, loyalty, brand loyalty, which one's better, which one has been better in the past, I want to make the simple, observation that Intel and AMD have both been releasing processors, but the amount of increases in performance and other things from AMD continues to be substantially larger than what Intel currently offers. So, if you're watching this video and you're going to get, upset at me that I am, you know, yes, currently Intel is the best gaming processor. I'm not denying that. But we look at something in the fact that gaming, which is something that's solely, well, for the most part, single core tasks, requires a high clock speed. But for example, we look at the fact that the AMD Ryzen processors have been pushing, each generation we've had jumps a gigahertz. Well, I don't know if that's the right word you say it, how the correct tense, I guess. But every single generation we've had, the last, Gen 1 versus Gen 2, has jumped 1 gigahertz. And you're going, oh, we've only got 2 generation points to look at this. We can't really make an accurate judgment. Well, think about it this way. Zen, the Zen architecture, that the current Gen 1 and Gen 2 with some Zen Plus, but I'll get into that later. They both are still running the Zen architecture, the single first gen Zen architecture, yes, with a couple tweaks on the second gen. And we're already seeing a gigahertz of improvement. So my question to ask is, if we're still using kind of the same system but tweaked, I would not be surprised to see a whole bunch better performance when we actually get a Zen 2 and Zen 3, which is supposed to come out in 2019. Because if you look at this from the standpoint of gaming, we see a gigahertz increase in just a slight minor tweak in the Zen architecture. Well, not really minor. I'm sure there's lots of memory controllers and power consumption usage and slightly smaller manufacturing process or different way of manufacturing process and stuff. So I'm not saying it's slight. But if you're, revamping the whole generation and putting on even a smaller die size or a smaller manufacturing process, you just get better power and cooling, etc., right off the bat. But you look at the fact that, the performance increase from that alone will be substantially bigger. And I'm sure Intel is working on the same thing and stuff. And I'm sure there's some things that Intel is doing different. But you look at the past of Intel is kind of stagnating. They've not really produced anything. Yes, the 8700K and the 86K, which is the next kind of 5.1 gigahertz boost processor, etc. They're really, yes, they are kind of, pushing out there. That's because of Ryzen, though. Intel kind of responded to Ryzen, AMD's Ryzen, by producing those processors. If Ryzen never came out, I don't think we really would have ever seen those kind of processors. So, really, I want to ask the question: the more cores that Ryzen offers is great, and it's really good for gaming in the sense that some games only use 2, etc. But just keep in mind that the other tasks you have open, like the operating system, things like that, run a little bit better with those extra cores. And I'm not saying that's any different than what Intel offers, and there's no really advantage core-wise for AMD. But I want to point out the fact of just the core speed increase between the two brands. Yes, Intel has been doing a great job with the overclocking capabilities of the 8700K, but if you look at the fact that, yes, that's a gigahertz, or maybe like half a gigahertz increase of what we got with the 7700K from the past generation, and that's even with more cores. And then we look at AMD that, yes, they've kept the same amount of cores, and they've of course increased their clock speed a good bit higher. So hopefully we will see something that offers better performance in the future from AMD for gaming, because I honestly think that's, now that AMD has gotten the amount of cores right, they've kind of settled down on the amount of cores they want, which I believe is 8 and 16 threads for the top tier line. I feel like they're going to be going 100% all out for the speed. And meanwhile, Intel, yes, can only increase at small increments up higher in their current speed department unless AMD releases more cores. And I hate to break it to you, Intel having the highest speeds is going to be something relatively soon of the past. Like it would that was an interesting way of putting that, but basically Intel's being the king of high speeds will no longer be what it is. We will end up hopefully seeing in the future. At least I am rooting for AMD for the simple fact that I want to see some competition in the speed department, because to be honest with you, Intel always being the king of gaming isn't necessarily great because they're only, increasing at small amounts. And yes, we saw this big leap with the, the Coffee Lake CPUs, but we really need to see some good leaps in speed. And I think AMD is starting to catch up, and Intel might start, producing more cores and stuff, but gaming really doesn't need it. And especially looking at from, just as I said, AMD being able to up their performance speeds substantially, especially in overclocks compared to what we saw in Intel. It's really starting to get close. And especially because Intel doesn't even have an 8-core 16 thread out, which I made a video about the supposed one, which by the way only clocks in currently at 2.2 gigahertz at right now on all those 8 cores. Meanwhile, Ryzen, the first gen, did, I believe. I'm trying to remember what mine was. Mine was 3.6 gigahertz on all cores. So I mean, you're looking at it from the standpoint of Ryzen and AMD is really pushing something they're really starting to come close, and I'm really excited for the competition that's ahead. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, of course, give it a thumbs up. And of course, I hope to see you around. Check out my channel for other cool tech-related news, videos, mods, etc. Thank you. Goodbye.